Welcome to the Unprofessional Podcast, folks. I'm your host, John Tuck. Today we're going to be talking about the Masters Golf Tournament, the history of it, Augusta National itself, its founding, and some of the controversies and exciting moments that happened in the tournament. So let's start off with its founding and the fathers. So the founders were Bobby Jones and Clifford Roberts. Bobby Jones was a world-renowned amateur golfer. Now, he didn't really play professionally, although he did compete against professionals throughout the world, and he actually did quite well, and he held his own. But his full-time profession was a lawyer. Bobby Jones himself he was a really good amateur golfer, but he was more so known for the books he was writing about golf and some of the equipment he was making. The equipment itself is no longer relevant, as you probably imagine. So Bobby Jones eventually retired from the game, or at least competing, not the game fully, and he moved back to the U.S. full-time. Bobby Jones himself grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, so he's looking for properties down in that area. He ended up finding Fruitland, which was based in Augusta, Georgia, and he contacted his buddy Clifford Roberts, who was an investment banker who lived up in New York. They took a look down at Fruitland in 1930 and then acquired the property in 1931 for 70 grand. 70 grand, folks. 70 grand. You know what they say, God's not making any more dirt, brother. That's a good price. That's a good price. And then they officially opened that course in 1932. 2 years later, the Masters tournament was held. Now, initially, it wasn't completely just for pros as it is. It was kind of invitation only. Most of the people playing in it were actually Bobby Jones's friends. But within about 10 years, it became one of, if not the most prestigious golf tournaments in the U.S. And the tournament itself was actually called Augusta National Invitation Tournament. Augusta National Invitation Tournament. And they changed the name in 1939 to the Masters. Bobby Jones himself was actually not a fan of this name. So in 1934, the first Masters tournament was held. 2 years after it was opened, Augusta National itself. Horton Smith was the winner, one of Bobby Jones' amateur friends, and he won about $1,500, which would equate to about $30,000 in today's money. Now, if just as a side note, if you guys look at all these accounting for inflation, I don't think they're ever right. I don't think they're ever right. I was looking at it now, and it said this inflation is an annual 3.1%. That's how they're counting the annual inflation rate since 1930. So I'm not, you guys know that can't be true. You look at the history of inflation throughout the U.S. Anyway, let's get past that. So by 1940, the Masters was already one of the most prestigious tournaments in the U.S., if not considered already the most prestigious. The Masters tournament has been played every year except for 1943 to 1945, which was during World War II. During this time, or just after, General Dwight D. Eisenhower joined as a member. Dwight D. Eisenhower would go on to become the 34th President of the United States. Part of the reason General Eisenhower joined Augusta National Golf Club was during World War II, when the club had to shut down. It actually started raising cattle and turkeys on its own grounds. Now, you gotta imagine that would never happen today, but Augusta did this, and as a thank you, General Eisenhower joined as a member. By 1949, just a few years after World War II, the green jacket was introduced. The first person to wear the green jacket was Sam Snead. You might have heard of him, Sam Snead. He went on to win it 2 more times, 3-time winner Sam Snead. So this starts the history of the green jacket, the famous green jacket. That's what the winner gets if they win the tournament. Now, a little fun fact about the tournament, or the green jacket itself, is the winner gets to take it and wear it for public appearances and image shoots, stuff like that, only for the first year. After that, they have to return it to the grounds where it's kept on Augusta National grounds throughout the year, stored in a safe place. Sometimes they bring them out for display, some are held permanently. A lot of them are kind of tucked away down a little basement. Another thing, too, is the green jacket, if you win it, let's say you're Tiger Woods, you win it for the first time, 1997, more than 20 years later, you win it again. they're actually putting on that same jacket over and over now. The jacket itself, they might tailor it a little bit in case the golfer itself grows. I got to imagine they did that with the Tiger Woods one, although I couldn't find any information about it. It's not that he got big or anything, but if you just look at him in 1997 versus 2019, he's just an older guy. He's way more muscular slash not as thin. So 1949, the jacket's introduced. Sam Snead wins it. From the mid to late 1950s to the mid 1970s, the Masters tournament was dominated by the big three in golf: Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, and Arnold Palmer. Makes a hell of a drink, Arnie does. And they won it a combined 13 times during this period. Jack Nicklaus won it 6 times. Arnold Palmer won it 4 times, and Gary Player won it 3 times. Now, if you ask Gary Player, he'll say he was the best player to ever play in that tournament, the best player to ever do it. And he was actually the first non-American to win it in 1961. Gary Player's from South Africa, if you guys did not know. A fun little ending happened in 1968. I thought it was a good story worth sharing. Argentine champion Roberto DiVincenzo signed his scorecard, incorrectly recording him as making a par 4 instead of a birdie on the 17th hole of the final round. According to the rules of golf, if a player signs a scorecard that records a score on a hole higher than what he actually made, the player receives the higher score for that hole. So Roberto, rather than getting a birdie, he gave himself a 4 on accident, and that's what they gave him since he signed his scorecard. This extra stroke cost DiVincenzo a chance to be an 18-hole Monday playoff with Bob Golby, who won the green jacket. This mistake led to the famous quote by DiVincenzo: "What a stupid I am." I tell you what, I say that to myself on the course when I'm golfing probably 6 times around, and there's a lot more profanities in there, if you know what I'm saying. So, 1975, Lee Elder became the first black man to play in the Masters. Now, 15 years later, Augusta admitted its first black member, Ron Townsend, after the Shoal Creek controversy. Now, if you guys haven't heard of the Shoal Creek controversy, long story short, basically this club in Alabama, they were picking and choosing only white members to be a part of the club. Now, believe it or not, this was not uncommon in golf. And so the Shoal Creek controversy stemmed from the club president coming out and saying, we're going to keep picking and choosing who we want to be a part of this club. Now, the big problem was, this was in 1990, the big problem was the PGA was hosting a tournament there. So they're already a little bit behind the times, this club in Alabama. And then they came out and say this. What happened was the mayor of this town in Alabama was like, you guys got to fix this. And then they had an honorary member who I think was an accountant be a part of the club. And this led to Augusta the same year admitting its first black member, Ron Townsend. Now, the founder, Clifford Roberts, is pretty famous for saying, as long as I'm alive, all players will be white and all caddies will be black. This kind of talks about the darker history of Augusta. Some people might say we're already past it. I don't really care. I just thought it was interesting. That's why I'm bringing it up. I didn't really know about it. When I was reading about Augusta National, the Masters tournament, I found this was new information to me. I found it interesting, so take it for what you will. If you don't like it, I don't care. So this kind of brings us into the history of what Augusta was for a bit. And absolutely prestigious tournament, don't get me wrong, but there was a bit of separatism at the club itself. Now, an interesting part about this is a lot of the caddies, they really enjoyed this aspect because, like I said earlier, they weren't even allowed to be members at many clubs. A lot of clubs wouldn't let them play there. So this was a way that they could not only make money from the game, but also contribute to it in a special way. Now, at any golf tournament, a caddy, let's say in the PGAs, for example, typically a caddy might get 10% of the winnings. So caddies are always credited a bit for the win, especially at a club like Augusta, where these caddies only caddied at these courses. If their guy won, this was a huge deal for them. A lot of the caddies became pretty renowned in the golf scene, and although the caddies had to be black, there was a weird dynamic in the sense that they could contribute to the game. So this is what it was. So that brings us to 1983, when the tournament itself said the players can bring their own caddies. This actually made a lot of caddies upset because this is what they did for a living. They worked at this club for a living. Part of the allure of working there was that they got to caddy for potentially a Masters champion. And the caddies themselves, they started becoming pretty famous in that world, especially if their player won. So this kind of started a lot of controversy in the sense that there's more quality, for sure, less prejudice, but also was taking away opportunities at the same time. Now, these days, I think it was the right move. It was kind of a step that had to happen, honestly, but it wasn't met without backlash from both white people and the caddies themselves. It's interesting. Major source of income for them that kind of went away for a little bit. Some players did still choose to win it or still choose to use Augusta caddies. It's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. So let's move to the 1980s. Jack Nicklaus, like I said, the big three. He was a part of it. Some say the best golfer of all time. Some say Tiger Woods. Take your pick. I think you can argue both. To me, if they're from different generations, what's the point of even arguing who's better? Honest to God, what's the point? Different equipment, different training, different. Everything's different. So I think if you took Jack Nicklaus from his prime, changed absolutely nothing, put him in today's golf, he'd probably struggle a little bit. Or I shouldn't say struggle. I think compared to Tiger, I don't know if he'd be as dominant. But if you put him at the same age as Tiger and grew up, would he be as good? Maybe. But we move towards the 1980s. Jack Nicklaus, he wins it for the sixth time at the age of 46. This makes him the oldest player to ever win it, and he still is to this day. 11 years later, so Jack Nicklaus won his final Masters in 1986. 11 years later, Tiger Woods wins it in 1997 at the age of 21 years old. This makes him the first African American to win the tournament, just 7 years after Augusta National admitted its first black member. And then he went on to win it 4 more times, including that win in 2019, which is known as the greatest comeback in golf history. Tiger Woods right now, he holds the record for most consecutive cuts made with 24. That stat is for how many times he played it. There were certain years where he wasn't able to do it. So it's not consecutive years made, it's consecutive cuts made when you're playing the tournament. That's at 24 right now. And unfortunately, with his Achilles tear, I can't see that really changing all too much. It's a bummer. Dude's been through it all with those car crashes, the affairs, a lot of mug shots. Feel for the guy. I mean, he's a child star in a sense. The dude was on, what was he on? Was he on the Van Dyke show? I don't know. He was on a huge show when he was 3. The kid's been a star. The guy's been a star since he was a kid, I should say. You don't see people turn out too normal, but by all means, Tiger Woods seemed out to be like a pretty regular dude. Found himself in some controversy though. Gary Player, the first non-American to win it. He holds a record for most consecutive appearances. Gary Player has played in the Masters 52 times. Now, you can say what you want about the guy. He's definitely got a big ego, but God, he's earned it. He's played it in 52 times, the Masters. First guy to win it that wasn't from the U.S., 1961. Another fun little stat, Fred Couples, he became the oldest player to make the cut at the age of 63 in 2023. Now, if you look at Fred Couples' swing, he's known as one of the smoothest swings of all time. And you look at it and you think there's no wonder why he was able to make this cut at the age of 63. And you're not seeing much torque and twist on that back. It's just so smooth. The tempo, all that speed comes down from the hip to striking the ball. So with that kind of swing, you're going to have some longevity. And it's amazing to see him make that cut at 23 at the age of 63. Just unbelievable. Another fun little stat I found was Guan Tianling. In 2013, a Chinese amateur golfer became the youngest ever to compete at the Masters. And he made the cut. He was 14 years old. He makes the cut at the Masters, and this was in 2013. I looked him up. Right now, he's ranked 1,086 in the world golf rankings. After he made that cut in 2013, he went on to play at the University of Arizona. That coach has to go down as one of the worst coaches of all time. At least for Guan Tianling. I don't know who the coach is. Sorry if it's someone big. But This dude makes a master's cut at 14 and then goes to the University of Arizona, is basically a no-name now. Something went wrong on that route. You gotta blame someone. I'll blame the coach. Somebody's gotta take the fall. And Wes Guan himself just stopped playing golf and started messing around. I don't know, maybe he did. Couldn't find too much information about him though. So let's fast forward to the modern day Masters. Obviously, the most prestigious tournament in the U.S., if not the world. Most people would say the world, but everyone's got their preference. Getting tickets to the Masters itself is next to impossible. You have to enter a lottery system. You have to enter in any given year. Now, Augusta doesn't release how many people apply for their lottery system, but at any given year, from what I could find online, where estimates were 300,000 applicants to possibly a million applicants worldwide. So good luck on that lottery system. You're not allowed to resell them. Some people somehow get around it and do. I don't quite get how, but if you're caught trying to buy resale tickets within a half mile of Augusta National grounds itself, that's a big fine, and you can even end up in jail just trying to buy the tickets for resale. Unbelievable. Very exclusive. If you do end up winning the lottery system, the tickets are actually surprisingly cheap. Only about $125 to $175 from what I could find online. The Masters itself is just an absolutely beautiful tournament. How fun. Hope everyone who watches golf would love to go someday. Especially given those ticket prices, it's actually not that bad. But absolutely beautiful tournament. Can't wait to watch it this year, 25. Scotty Scheffler won it last year. Jon Rahm 2 years ago in 23. Right now, Scotty Scheffler is again the betting favorite. Rory McIlroy's at number 2. Go ahead, check that list out on your favorite odds making site. I'm gonna put my money on Bryson. I know Bryson DeChambeau. I know he's at plus 2,000. That feels like a steal to me. They've been playing at public courses a lot on that Live Tour. And when they get to the Masters and they play those grounds, it's going to be something a little different. So appreciate you guys listening. If you made it this far, check out Unprofessional Golf on all social media. Check the website. Shop the merch. Peace.